How long have you been doing this, Reverend Pat D?
For quite a while.
Yeah, we have like, I don't know, you might have been doing this longer than like anyone else in this room. Give it up for the Reverend Pat D! Woo!
It is very symbolic that they picked this topic on today's date because it was exactly 39 years ago today, on September 1, 1976, which was my first day of being in junior high in special ed because I had Asperger's syndrome. But back in those days, it was considered a behavior disorder because they were a bunch of incompetent fucking imbeciles. And that was my very first day in which I would be treated like a second-class citizen. How exciting. There were two major things that led to this, and the first thing was the teaching style in the schools was a bunch of brutal, fast-paced fucking bullshit, and I was falling behind. The second reason was because I was bullied so bad by those fucking conformist pieces of fucking filth. And by the time that I got into the 6th grade, things had gotten so bad and then that by the time I would have gotten into junior high, things would have gotten completely out of control. And I ain't going to go so much into the bullying because I've talked about that in the past, and I plan to talk about it in the future. So I'll just focus on the insult, the injury. Now, getting into special ed was my parents' wet dream come true because it was going to teach me and indoctrinate me into becoming a good, obedient conformist. During the summer of 1976, my mother told me that my special ed teacher was going to say something to me about having long fingernails, and he was going to say something to me about not combing my hair, and he was going to say something to me about this, and he was going to say something to me about that. And I had to listen to that fucking bullshit all summer long. I also rode one of those small yellow school buses to school, also known as a mental bus. And one of the first kids who got on after me asked the bus driver if it was okay to smoke dope on the mental bus. And I was thinking, this might not be so bad after all. The first day of school was so fucking boring, and as my special ed teacher spent the entire day explaining his point system to determine your behavior. By the second day of that school year, at a new school, and the kids were already showing signs that they were a bunch of low-life pieces of trash, just like the last school that I was at, and they already started bullying me. And when I got home, I told my parents, and my father said, "Are you starting that shit again?" And like it's my fucking fault that I'm getting bullied, but he had a tendency to act like a real fucking asshole. I told my special ed teacher that I was getting bullied already, and those who fucked with me got in trouble and the bullying stopped. But by the time I got into 8th grade, things went down the toilet and the bullying got bad again, and my special ed teacher and my parents put more intense pressure on me to be a conformist, and my special ed teacher constantly tried pressuring me into cutting my fingernails, and he told me that it was my fault that I was getting bullied, and I ain't supposed to have long fingernails because I ain't lucky enough to have a twat between my legs. How long my fingernails are in anyone's fucking business, and if they don't like it, they can eat shit and take a flying fuck. My father was obsessive compulsive about making an issue out of my fingernails, and I won't forget the time when we were on our way to Florida when this redneck fucking piece of trash mentioned my long fingernails at a restaurant, and my father went fucking shit, and I had to listen to him scream at me for over 3 fucking hours because of that. My father didn't like it when we stayed in a motel and I liked to run out with a thermometer to see what the temperature is because he was very worried about what people will think. People who worry about what people think have very weak minds. And my father thought that it was my fucking fault that I was bullied, and because of that I took a pilgrimage to Columbine on October 26, 2014 while I was in Colorado to pay tribute to the loving memory of Eric and Dylan, who brought guns to school to shoot the conformist pieces of fucking filth who tormented them, as it was on 4/20/1999 when justice was served, which rarely happens. Furthermore, my parents believed that you should only have a bowel movement in the morning right after eating breakfast, or else you're not normal. And whenever we went on vacation, my parents would take a shit and stink up the motel room right after eating breakfast. And every morning, my father would get up for work, and he would eat breakfast, and then he would sit on the toilet and take a shit, just before he would go into work. But at least he practiced what he preached. On that one, anyway. Now, how can anyone take a shit just before they go to work? With all the anxiety and stress that it causes, unless you have diarrhea. And if any of you ever had diarrhea before, have you ever noticed that you can't hold it in or else you'll end up shitting out diarrhea in your pants? Talking about diarrhea is fun. Well, so many people told me that I deserved to be bullied while I was in school, but that has caused me to turn out to be a better person. And it shows.